All right, you all. I'm back. I know, right? You just saw my face like not only a few hours ago, right? But as I told you all, your boy stayed working. And I said it once and I'll say it again. During this pandemic, I got people that are a lot more available to me that weren't available to me before this all started. So I am taking full advantage of people's availability. So that is why I'm practically live every single night, because people are available. I'm taking advantage and I am rocking and rolling with the wave. So I'm back again for the second time tonight. Hello, how y'all doing? Welcome back to another episode of VypDrive. We got Let's Talk out there. How you doing, man? We got CDF Man out there chilling. Tech for your needs. Will Barlow, Joseph Hardison. We got PB Mama Ray. What's happening? How y'all doing? Y'all are out there in the cut, man. You know, it humbled me that you all come for every live stream. Like, I have been live practically every night for the past 2 weeks, it seems like, but you guys show up every single time. You have not got sick of me yet, which is just mind-boggling, but here you all are. We're back again for another episode, so thank you. Appreciate you guys. Let's get into the intro and get my man Luke in here, and let's see what we got. All right, let me take a drink. What's up, Trent? How you doing, man? How you doing? See, all y'all should come. Y'all should keep coming back. It's amazing. All right. Okay, so let me do it again. So this is VypDrive episode 109, and tonight comes as a little bit of a surprise to me. We have a creator in the Apple space. We have an Apple laptop guru in the building. They call him Luke, and he's up next on VypDrive, which starts now. What's up, people? This your boy Viper, the man about tech, and welcome back to another episode of VypDrive. This is the podcast about tech, hosted by the man about tech. And as I just alluded to in my introduction, we have an Apple laptop specialist in the building. They call him Luke Miani. What's up, Luke? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you? How's everyone doing tonight?
I am good, man. I am good. Thank you for taking the time to join me. I appreciate you.
Of course. Happy to be here.
All right, before I get into my usual spiel, like I just said before we went live, I got a different question for you before we go to the regular programming of what I do here. Mm-hmm. You were on an episode of Gadget Cast, I think last weekend, and I think Greg or Travis, one of them asked you, are you familiar with Viper? And you were like, yes, I watched Viper before. I'm like, oh, what? I happened to be watching because I think I was doing a podcast or I was doing something that time. And I happened to catch the end of that podcast, and I heard you like say, "Yeah, I watched Viper before." So I'm always curious when like bigger creators like watch my content. So how long have you been watching me? Because like again, I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know. I think I've known about you for like probably a year or so, a little less than a year, something like that.
A year? Wow.
I think one of the times you had Marquez on, I stopped by and I was like, "Oh wow, that's cool." So I've seen a couple of your videos here and there over the past 10 months, I want to say. We'll lock it down at 10. We'll call it 10. Yeah, that sounds about right.
It is amazing. Like, you think that YouTube is this big old vast oceany world, but it's amazing how small the tech space is that we literally see each other, but we don't know because, like you said, we don't really comment all the time, but we see things. We see what's going on. It's crazy.
Yeah, YouTube is such a weird place. It's like it's simultaneously a really small bubble, and you end up kind of developing close connections with other people in the space. And yet, at the same time, it's also really big. Like in terms of tech, you know, you checked Social Blade, and it's like 3,000th in tech. So there's like 3,000 people out there, probably more than that, obviously. And it's like it's such a weird disconnect between seeming like a bubble and also seeming like this vast abyss of people that you'll never ever know who they all are.
Seriously, and further to my point, I had no idea I was on this guy's radar until recently, but one of the world's most famous leakers is actually in the chat. Sonny Dickinson is out there. What's up, Sonny? How you doing? He sent me a DM like a year ago, and I had no idea I was on the dude's radar, but he sent me a DM a year ago, and I was just like, what? Are you in the wrong spot? Like, are you really talking to me? Like, what's going on? But
yeah, Sonny and I have been talking lately. I didn't know that I was on his radar either.
We've been talking
the past couple of days.
Crazy.
It's so weird. Oh, Greg's Gadget is here.
Oh yeah, that guy
just in time to get canceled. Get rid of this guy.
Oh, we'll get into that later on. We'll get into that. All right, so let's go back to the normal programming of what I do here. So, Luke, first question I ask every new guest that comes to the podcast: what brought you to YouTube?
I've been on YouTube for a long time. I've 10 years in August that I've been on YouTube. Not in my current capacity. It's just been mainly miscellaneous channels. I've always been into video editing, and I've been using iMovie since iMovie HD, and I'm not that old, so that tells you a lot about how long I've been doing this. And using Final Cut for 7 years, and I've always been interested in video making and filmmaking. And I've also been interested in YouTube and in tech. And so 5 years ago, which is when I started my current channel, I was like, I want to do all of that together. I want to make videos on YouTube about tech. And I've been doing it ever since.
And doing it very well. So I was looking at your Twitter, and you just hit 100,000 in December, it seemed like. Mm-hmm. But when I look at your channel today, and we're in July, you are on the doorstep of 200,000. So you went from 100 to 200. You went from 100 to 200 uber quickly. Like, man, what is your secret, man? Let me know.
I don't know. I mean, it really, I kind of hit, I don't know if you've noticed this, but on YouTube, you kind of end up with like stages of growth where like 1 or 2 videos will come out quick, and then you'll kind of get like a daily view average bump, sub average bump, and then it kind of plateaus a little bit, and then a little bit later you get another bump. It's a very strange phenomenon that I've noticed over the past couple of years. So what's kind of set me on my current track, which has allowed me to essentially double in 6 months, was the video that I made where I bought a pile of 12 MacBooks on eBay. Mm-hmm. That video is nearing 1 million. That'll be my first video to hit 1 million when it eventually gets there. It's not getting a lot of views right now because it's from November, but that was kind of the video that sent me on my current trajectory, if you will.
Right. All right. So I guess that kind of segues into my next question. Mm-hmm. Your content is mostly Apple related. Mostly you're talking about Apple MacBook, MacBook Pro, things like that. So what led you down that path? Because that again, as I said before on the podcast, that is a particular niche. And obviously we know if you want to grow on YouTube, it's best to niche down into a particular subject area. So the way that you cover Apple laptops and MacBooks in specific is a very particular niche. So how did you get down that path?
Well, so I mean, I've always been kind of an Apple guy. I've been watching all the keynotes since probably WWDC 2012. I've just always been interested in Apple, so I always have had that lens and perspective on my content. But for the first 2 or 3 years, I didn't really have a particular focus. It was just sort of miscellaneous tech, whatever I had access to through friends or family to make videos about was for the most part what I was talking about. And eventually in like summer of 2017, I had made a couple of videos on essentially the old Macs that my family was trying to get rid of. Mm-hmm. And going, hey, what about a used Mac? And I made a couple of videos on those. And those were the videos that kind of did well. And I was like, okay, I'm going to explore this area of YouTube because clearly there's people out there that want to see it. And so pretty much since then, coming up on 3 years, is when I've been sort of focusing on that niche. It's kind of a blessing and a curse in terms of, YouTube really wants you to niche down, and they reward you when you do that, but they punish you if you try to stop. Mm-hmm. It's a pain.
It's brutal, man. It's brutal, but you have done very well with it, no doubt. So I came into contact with your content a few months ago when I was looking to buy my current 16-inch MacBook Pro. I have I brought the base model 16-inch MacBook Pro back in February, I believe. And I ran across your content because you were doing comparisons between the base model and the most expensive 16-inch MacBook Pro. And as I was watching your video, you came to the conclusion that there's not much of a difference in performance between the base model and the Mac model. So can you talk to us a little bit more about the differences between the base model 16-inch MacBook Pro and the maxed out 16-inch MacBook Pro?
Yeah, I mean, basically with Apple's, the way that they have their pricing ladder and their upgrade structure is it balloons very quickly because like right now, the 2 configurations that you get as stock are really solid. And it's the first time that has actually been the case for pretty much forever. The entry level 15 and now 16 has always been a little underwhelming. They've had kind of middling graphics performance. They've had 256 gigabytes SSD. In the old days, back before 2014, they had 8 gigs of RAM. It was like even the Retinas from 2013 it had 8 gigs, and then even in 2014 and 15, they didn't even have dedicated graphics on the base model. There was always something about the base that was just like, you should go for something that's more upgraded. They have better residual value, better performance. It was just kind of something that I was always recommending. But with the 16-inch, they changed that because they had the processors didn't change. That 6-core i7 is still great for most people. I mean, you look, a 9750H is in any high-end laptop out there. That is the go-to processor. So for most people, that's going to be fine. 16 gigabytes of RAM, again, totally fine. Now, what makes it different is you have a 0.5 terabyte SSD. That's what needed to change. You have the graphics that are actually, that match with that 6-core processor. Because before we had the 555X, I believe, and those things were just outdated, not really very powerful. And it just got to the point where it was very frustrating in the past because you had to spend so much to get, you had to spend $400 to get your Vega 20 graphics. You had to spend to get all of this extra performance. Whereas now you still have that option and some people benefit from it, but the base is now actually a really good value, which it didn't used to be.
Yeah, I feel like I got a pretty good deal. I mean, obviously, what we do. I'm on Final Cut Pro. I'm editing video most of the time. I'm doing these live streams. But the one thing, Luke, that annoyed me about all the MacBooks I've had, and I haven't had that many, I had the 2017 13-inch base model MacBook Pro, and now I have the 2019 16-inch base model MacBook Pro. But on both of them, whenever I'm live streaming, Luke, they sound like jet engines taking off. So is there any way to like mitigate that or stop that fan noise from like just blaring out of control, or is that just what I get with live streaming?
Well, here's the problem with Apple. And it's a problem with Apple, but it's also a problem with Intel because, as you know, they're kind of stuck with Intel, at least for now. That's going to change very soon.
Yeah.
But Apple prioritizes quietness. Their fan curve is tuned very aggressively towards making as little noise as possible. But Intel processors, at least nowadays, when they're just kind of cramming more cores in them, are not cool running chips. They run very hot. And so basically what Apple does is they will just kind of let your CPU cook itself up to 85, 90 degrees Celsius. And then they'll just get the fan and they'll just run the fans at full blast, try to cool it down, and then shut the fans off again. So what you'll notice is I'm on the 16-inch right now. Actually, I can go ahead and open up Intel Power Gadget here and take a look. I would definitely recommend Intel Power Gadget if you don't have it installed. It lets you kind of see what your CPU is doing. So right now, I'm sitting at 60 degrees Celsius, and my fans are at idle. So in a normal computer, if I were sitting here at 60 degrees, the fans would be going a little bit. But Apple doesn't like to do that. So what I would recommend if you want to fix that is you can download a program called Max Fan Control. And that basically lets you have complete control over the fans. So you can set a constant speed. I like to set them at about 60% speed. That usually keeps it pretty cool. Streaming isn't that demanding. It's not that your CPU is going to overheat. It's just that Apple lets it overheat because they don't want to make any noise. The other thing you can do with Max Fan Control is set a temperature sensor, like a degree, for the CPU when the fans start to kick in. So instead of letting it go to 85 or 90 like Apple does, you can say, all right, at 60, start putting in the fans. And then hopefully you can keep it under control with less fan noise so it doesn't have to start taking off once it gets really cookie.
Okay. So I mean, I know a little bit about computer, but I'm not a complete computer like nerd. But you just said that streaming is not demanding, but yet every time I live stream on my MacBook, fans are taking off like we're at an airport. So what exactly is happening? Because to me, if the fans are kicking up like that means that the CPU is running hotter and hotter than it normally runs if the fans are running like that. So Am I wrong? Or
So
something else happening?
streaming with StreamYard, at least for me, so my 16-inch, I have the i9, so it's got 2 extra cores, so the percentages might not line up exactly, but I generally only use about 20% of the CPU. It's not running super. It's not running at high power draw. I'm currently right now. I'm not streaming, but right now I'm using 5%, and my CPU is drawing 9 watts of power. So it's not very demanding. You're only really going to be peaking at 25% of your CPU. But the problem is Apple doesn't. It basically lets the fans sit completely at idle. So your CPU's not working hard, but it's also not getting cooled down. So it just climbs up and gets warmer and warmer and warmer and warmer over time. So that's why when you start streaming, your fans don't start right away. Usually it's about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, would you say? Is that roughly right?
Yeah. Right.
So about 15 minutes in, the CPU it's not under heavy load, but it is heating up over time because Apple basically just has the fans at their minimum RPM, so it's not dissipating the heat. So that's why you end up with, you're like, what's going on here? Why is my computer taking off? I'm not exporting in Final Cut. I'm not trying to render 4K footage. And it happens on the iMac Pro too. Like it's everything. Like the 18-core iMac Pro over here is very quiet most of the time. And sometimes it just lets it get up to 100 degrees Celsius, and then it's got to just go wah for about 10 minutes until it cools itself down a little bit. So it's very strange because it's not like on a PC, you start doing something demanding, the fan starts spinning. So it's a very clear indication. Fan spinning equals computer is busy.
Right.
But Apple doesn't do that. They basically try to offload the fan noise until after whatever you're doing has passed, because they kind of hope that you're not doing anything long-term and that you'll just use 60% of your CPU for like 5 minutes and then go back to browsing the web, and they won't have to put the fans on at all. It's all part of their fan curve. It's very strange. Definitely strange.
Like trending in the chat is saying, Apple reprioritize silence over CPU longevity. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the 12-inch MacBook, which doesn't have a fan at all and just sits at 100 degrees Celsius all the time, has very, very common CPU failure. Happens all the time.
Woo. I remember when the 2019 15-inch i9 MacBook Pro came out last year, there was a big controversy about the thermals and those.
Yeah, the 2018 one, yeah.
2018. You're right. You're right. Yep, the 2018 one. There, we had the thermal controversy because they weren't being properly cooled and things like that. So
yeah, that one was a weird situation because they had basically the way that Apple works nowadays is they undervolt the CPUs. Which we don't need to get into how that all works, but they undervolt the CPUs and it basically produces less heat. It does come with a performance penalty, but it's not a ton of performance that you're giving up, and it's not thermal throttling, which is what was wrong with the 2018. Was basically they were just letting it get too hot, and it was throttling, which means it's going under its base clock speed when under full load. Right. Whenever people say, oh, the Core i9's throttling, it's not at 5 gigahertz. That's not what throttling is. Throttling means you're under base clock. Normally, a CPU is not going to be running at its full turbo speed all the time, unless you've got like a crazy water-cooled rig or something insane like that. So for the most part, I mean, Macs don't thermal throttle. Even the 2018, they fixed that with a firmware update. So it's not great. It's not well cooled, and it's still running way too hot, but it's not technically thermal throttling anymore.
Yeah, like you said, they fixed it with a firmware update back in 2018, and they improved the thermals on the 2019. But you would think that Apple would have a better way of handling it. But as you said earlier, this might not matter for much longer because we know that Apple is finally transitioning over to using their own Apple Silicon. So talk to us, Luke, about how that will impact Macs going forward, because at the keynote, Craig Federighi said that within 2 years, they expect all their Macs to be transitioned over to their own Apple Silicon.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually do that quicker. In 2006, which was the year, well, they actually announced it in 2005. They announced the transition from PowerPC to Intel. And Same thing. They said 2-year process. They announced it at the beginning of 2005. They said, we're going to, within 2 years, starting in 2006, we're going to switch everything over. They actually did the entire transition in 10 months. They started in January with the MacBook Pro and the polycarbonate, the white plastic MacBook. And then they did the Mac Mini, they did the iMac, they did the Mac Pro, and then they actually did the iMac, MacBook Pro, and MacBook again at the end of 2006, where they went from Core Duos, which are 32-bit, to Core 2 Duos, which are 64-bit. Mm-hmm. So there is precedent to suggest that 2 years is the longer end of the transition and that it could be a lot quicker. I personally think that the MacBooks, especially the low and mid-tier stuff, I think is going to be knocked out by Q1, Q2 of 2021 pretty easily. You look at an A12Z, which is what they have in the developer transition kit.
Right.
That's already outclassing a MacBook Air, even the base model MacBook Pro.
Yep.
And an A12Z is basically an A12X, which came out in 2018. So that's already 2-year-old tech, and you're already beating out any MacBook Air you can buy. So I think that stuff is a shoo-in. By early next year, probably by May, they'll have the 13-inch MacBook Pro. The MacBook Air, I don't even know if they're going to keep that around. I was talking about this on Twitter, and if Sonny's still here, he sent me a link that was really interesting about this, where basically right now the differentiation between an Air and a Pro is performance and stuff like that. But if you have Apple Silicon, you might not necessarily need that distinction. So we could end up with just MacBook and MacBook Pro, something like that. Right. I don't know how likely that is because Apple is very particular with their marketing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll figure it out either way.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the 31 of you all that are watching another episode of VypDrive with me and Luke Miani. Appreciate you guys rocking out each and every episode. If you would like to support the podcast, you can always super chat, or you can buy me a coffee, or you could choose to become a channel member. None of this stuff is required, but anything that you're willing to do, greatly appreciate it. Shout out to those of y'all listening on audio only. Thank you for listening to another episode of VypDrive this week with me and Luke Miani. Appreciate you guys rocking out each and every week on the audio side of things. If you would like to support the podcast, there will be links in the show note. Not required, but anything that you're willing to do, greatly appreciate it. Also, if you want to go check out Luke and his content, his information will be in the show notes as well. So definitely go give him a look. He's legit. Also, if you happen to be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a rating or review as to help more people discover the podcast. And we're trying to get back into the top 200 of tech podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So please consider leaving that rating or review if you're listening to VypDrive on Apple Podcasts. Appreciate you guys. Okay, Luke, so can you help us break down what Apple transition to ARM, or actually I shouldn't say ARM anymore. Can you help us break down what Apple transition to Apple Silicon means for the average everyday person?
Nothing.
Nothing, huh?
It's so overhyped. People are, I think, making a way bigger deal of it than they need to, because we got to remember that we're talking about Apple here. This is a humongous company, and they love control. And so if anything, I think that Macs with Apple Silicon, obviously we're going to get into the nitty gritty, and on Tech YouTube, we're going to be really dissecting it. But for most people that are looking to buy a Mac because they want the operating system they know to write stuff, browse their emails, watch YouTube videos, and get good battery life. That's what most people are looking for. Apple Silicon is regardless of the performance, regardless of how it compares to Intel or what the Pro app compatibility, regardless of all of that, what Apple absolutely nails is optimization. Yeah. You look at an iPhone 10. This is a 3-year-old phone that feels brand new. Even an iPhone 6S from 2015 is still a usable phone. You translate that to a MacBook, then I can only really see positives for the average user, because your battery life is going to be better. It's going to be quieter. It's going to be more well optimized. and you'll have less of the weirdness. Like right now we have the T2 stuff, which can be a little bit weird because the T2 is basically a little ARM chip that kind of bridges some of the stuff that Apple wants to do, but obviously can't do with Intel's processors. So you get weird conflicting things there. That's all gone with Apple Silicon. So for most people, they're not going to notice it. Their Mac is going to be better. It might actually be a little bit cheaper depending on what happens. It's going to last longer, and it's going to get better battery life.
I was just about to ask you, do you think that this transition to their own silicon will affect the pricing of the Mac?
I don't know. I've kind of been waffling back and forth on this because on the one hand, Intel is ridiculously overpriced. The 13-inch MacBook Pro, the 2021 with the 10th gen Core i5, Intel charges OEMs $320 for that chip, which is already getting outperformed in short bursts in some tasks by an A12Z. An A12Z is in an $800 tablet. And that's Apple. Their profit margins are crazy. I've read reports that an A13 costs about $30. An A13 is already outclassing a lot of older notebooks that, dual core i3, i5 stuff. You're already beating that with a A13. So an A12Z is probably, again, this is total speculation, probably about $100 to make at most. Okay. So I think the cost savings for Apple are going to be tremendous with their own silicon. The question is, knowing Apple, do they translate that to the consumer and give us, I don't know, knock $100 off the price? Or do they just pocket the difference and keep their pricing the same? Or the third option that is, as I think of it, sounding very Apple, is charge a premium anyway because it's new.
Right. Now,
so any of those things could happen.
Okay. Now, the interesting question here is, for the longest time, people have complained about how MacBooks are so expensive compared to their PC counterparts. Like, if you pay like $2,000 for a MacBook, you can get a PC, a much more powerful PC for that same price. You can get more specs and things like that compared to a $2,000 MacBook. So now with Apple using their own silicon in the MacBook, and if we know anything about the way Apple silicon has been performing on iPads and iPhones, at some point, Apple silicon is going to probably outperform Intel stuff on the PC side. Will MacBooks finally be more comparable in like what you get for value for dollar to their PC counterparts now that Apple is using their own silicon?
I think that's definitely their goal. I think it would be, for a transition like this, obviously it takes a fair bit of confidence because Intel is tried and true. Everyone knows it. You write 3.3 gigahertz Core i9 on your box or whatever. People understand what that means from a marketing perspective. So when you make a switch to Apple Silicon, it's not just like we want more control over our products and we want to do it our way. You're also trying to still get people on board because people are going to be skeptical.
Yep.
The average user that I said isn't probably going to notice a difference is going to be a little bit afraid of something new because they've been buying MacBook Airs every 3 years and they see that Core i5 and they might not know exactly what that means, but they recognize it. And so you have to entice people, especially pros who tend to get very stuck in their ways. I still run Mojave on my iMac over there because I don't like to change anything. So you have to really throw out a carrot for them to get people to change. And I think that carrot is, we can offer you better battery life, better performance, lower heat, lower power consumption than Intel. And that's what they need to do. And I'm fairly confident that that's what they're going to do.
Wait. Time out. So you, Luke Miani, still has a MacBook in your office that's running on Mojave? That's like
my iMac. Yeah.
That's like 2 versions of Mojave. What you doing over there, man? Why you?
Well, first of all, Catalina is a buggy mess. That is my workstation. Every single video that I have made in 2020, which is probably like 50, has been done on that iMac. And it already has crashes because of the T2 chip. I'm not about to double those with Catalina bugs. Not my older version of Photoshop that I like because I have my workflow isn't supported in Catalina because I get rid of 32-bit.
What about High Sierra, though? What about High Sierra?
What do you mean? Well, I mean, Mojave is better than High Sierra. It's got
Oh, that's right. I'm getting mixed up. Never mind.
yeah. Mojave is newer than High Sierra.
Okay.
I'll probably switch to Big. I mean, I'm not going to put a beta on my main machine. Like, there's no way that I'm going to do that. But yeah, so I'm just sticking with Mojave because I don't want things to change.
Okay.
That's what I was just saying. Yeah, I don't want things to change.
Okay.
So
yeah,
if I'm gonna make a change, it had better make a big difference. Big Sur is a big difference. Catalina adds bugs. I'm not interested in that. So if Apple Silicon adds bugs and complication, people aren't going to buy it.
You're absolutely right, because I have heard from so many people who complain about Catalina not supporting the apps that they use normally. They're like messing up their workflow and like they're being buggy. Like I've heard a lot of complaints about Catalina being buggy. Now for me, I haven't experienced too many bugs. I mean, I use Final Cut Pro, so it's basically optimized. But I mean, I can understand why. Like you said, if you have that workflow and Catalina is bringing you an experience that just not going to work, yeah, it's not going to work. I completely understand why you won't upgrade.
Yeah.
I got you.
So I'm sticking with Mojave until Big Sur. I would love for there to be a new iMac Pro at some point, but I'm pretty sure the iMac Pro is just going to get reabsorbed into the iMac and just kind of cease to exist with this new generation.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you about something else that we have been like rumoring and wishing about for a long time that seems more likely now with the upcoming transition. So for the longest time, we have been lamenting the lack of Final Cut Pro on iPad. But we both know that Apple has been working on Project Catalyst for the last 3 to 4 years. And for those of y'all that are not familiar, Project Catalyst is Apple trying to merge all of their apps to work on across all the different platforms. So basically, it's trying to get iOS and iPadOS apps to work natively on Mac. So when you think about it that way, it only stands to reason with the upcoming transition to ARM that at some point, Final Cut Pro is going to land on iPad. So Luke, how likely do you think that is? Or maybe I guess the better question is, how soon can that happen?
Well, it could happen tomorrow because the Apple developer platform is an iPad Pro shaped like a Mac Mini.
Yeah,
it is literally that. It's got more RAM, but that's the only difference, really.
Yep.
So the fact that they have Big Sur with Final Cut running on that platform, which we know that they do because they're shipping it to people, means that there is theoretically nothing stopping them from putting it on the iPad Pro. The only challenge is basically reworking the visuals of it, because you can't just directly put a Mac app on an iPad. Now, granted, they're going to be doing that the reverse. You can run an iPad app on an Apple Silicon Mac running Big Sur, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be a situation where you're just going to be able to put your Mac app that's developed for a Mac on an iPad. So it's definitely something, because it's a different interface. So I think it's coming, but I don't think it's going to be the same Final Cut Pro that we all want it to be, because it's just, Final Cut Pro is not made for touchscreens. Correct. So it's just not the same platform.
Right. I think a lot of us expect if we ever do see Final Cut on an iPad, it definitely will be a more watered down version of Final Cut Pro, because like you said, Final Cut Pro is not made for touchscreen devices. I mean, no matter how much we want it on iPad, it's not designed in its current state to work on an iPad. Now, yes, there's Sidecar, but that's a whole nother matter entirely, and that's not really Final Cut Pro for iPad. That's just Sidecar. So, I definitely think that it will happen at some point. Like I said, with the recent transition to Apple Silicon, I don't think Final Cut Pro on iPad is an if anymore. It's only a matter of when.
Yeah, Renee Ritchie just popped in the chat here and kind of elaborated on what I was getting at there. Final Cut Pro on Apple Silicon is still an AppKit app, which does not exist on iPad. There's no reverse catalyst. So that's what I was saying, where you can port a Mac or an iPad app, an iPhone app over to the Mac. You can build an app to work on all three, but you can't just port a Mac app over to iPad, at least not yet. And you also then get the drawbacks of having to essentially reformat it to fit a different medium. So that I think is going to it's going to give them. It's going to take a little while, I think, for them to get that all working.
Yeah, Renee says that they rebuilt a version of Final Cut and UI Kit, then that could run on iPad, but it's the same regardless of Catalyst on Apple Silicon. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you said, you can right now they're set up to engineer iOS and iPad OS apps for Mac, but they're not set up to engineer Mac apps for iPad. So that which makes sense because you're talking about completely different infrastructures and things. So yeah, definitely makes sense, man. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's weird, but it's exciting at the same time because I think it'll be pretty exciting to see what Apple does with their own CPUs in their MacBooks because we've seen what they've done on iPhones and iPads, and we've seen the performance gains over laptops with these iPhones and iPads. So I am very excited to see what they can do with that technology in their own MacBooks and MacBook Pros and things like that. It's an exciting time for Apple for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think by the end of this year, we're gonna have our hands on Apple Silicon. Probably, as we've heard for a while, the likely candidates are the 13-inch MacBook Pro and a 24-inch iMac. Now, the iMac has been driving me insane for the past pretty much month because we thought it was a shoo-in. We thought, oh yeah, new iMac generation with Intel coming at WWDC, 24-inch, 27-inch, get it done, get this thick bezeled mess out of here, and we're moving on. But that all just got completely turned on its head when we have the transition.
Yep.
And then you also have Tim Cook saying at WWDC, there's still going to be Intel Macs coming in the future.
Right.
And so now it's looking like we're going to get a new 27-inch iMac with Intel very soon. I said jokingly, almost out of impulse, to Greg on Twitter earlier today that it was going to be tomorrow. The reason I said that was because a year ago, that was when the 13-inch MacBook Pro got updated. It was on a Tuesday, the first or second Tuesday of July or whatever it was. It was the 9th then, which lines up to be the 7th now. So that was my sort of shot in the dark prediction. We'll see if that actually comes true, but the shipping times are slipping. They're into September for the 27-inch iMac right now. So it's a very strange situation because the thing that I can't wrap my head around is why would they redesign an iMac? Why would they redesign any Apple product right now and put Intel in it? Right? That doesn't make any sense.
None.
If you're going to be releasing a new generation, that would really line up with the Apple Silicon transition. It's also the most logical way. Like if you're going to redesign it, switching to Apple Silicon allows you to make new design decisions that you wouldn't ordinarily be able to do.
Correct.
So the iMac has a single cooling fan. That's a bit of a hassle right now, and it kind of hampers the performance. But if you get rid of the hard drives, which I can't believe they still have, and put in Apple Silicon, which uses less power and generates less heat, that allows you to make a crazy new design. But I don't know why they would do that with Intel on only one of the iMacs, not touching the smaller one. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just such a strange situation, and I can't figure out the way that I kind of thought about it, that now even this is kind of falling apart, that would actually make sense was do a spec bump in July, basically just, put 10th gen processors, put RDNA graphics like a 5300, 5500 graphics, the same stuff that we find in the MacBook Pro. Just put that in it, spec bump the Intel stuff, and then October special event, new iMac generation, 24-inch. It would sort of be a separate category, so it wouldn't replace anything. It would be in addition to the existing iMacs. And then eventually, they would have a larger one, the 27 or a 30-inch iMac, phase out the older ones. That's what they did with the Retina MacBook Pro. In 2012, they introduced the 15-inch MacBook Pro, which sat on top of the existing 13 and 15-inch unibody MacBooks, and they sold those for about a year until they discontinued those, and they also introduced a 13-inch Retina model, and then they moved forward with that new generation. That makes sense to me. but why would you do a new generation and then transition it in a major way? It doesn't make any sense.
You know what? Nobody knows why Apple does what Apple does. We're still wondering 4 years later why they removed the headphone jack from iPhones. No, nobody knows, man. Nobody knows.
Apple is on a crusade. They hate ports.
Seriously.
They hate them.
I mean, they're talking about a new portless iPhone next year. So good Lord, we don't even know, man. We just don't know.
Yeah. See, the thing, I wouldn't even mind that much a portless iPhone. The only time I use the port on my iPhone is for CarPlay. But I need CarPlay. And also, not everyone has a wireless charger. And apparently, if they're not going to even ship a charger at all with the iPhone, and you don't even have a port, how is that going to work? I think the only way that they can do that, the only way that they can ship a portless iPhone is if they put a wireless charger in the box.
They have to.
They have to. There's no other. It's literally inconceivable that they would do it any other way. And then you still have the question of what happens to CarPlay.
Yeah. I mean, hell, it's inconceivable to me that they're even thinking about shipping a phone without a charger this year. I'm like, how does that work for first-time iPhone owners? Are they just SOL without a charger in the box? I mean, it seems pretty arcane that they will make you buy a charger, even though we know Apple won't have any problem doing stuff like that. They've done it in the past, but we're talking about the iPhone here. You're talking about your mainstream, your money maker. It seems kind of crazy to like hamper the customer by making them buy an additional charging brick. That just seems asinine to me, but it's Apple, so who really knows?
Yeah, I mean, I get both arguments. Personally, almost everyone I know has a charger or a couple of bricks, because the rumor, I think people are misconstruing it as like no charger, but the rumor is no brick, so it would still have the cord, just not the brick. And that's a pretty key distinction, because a lot of people, even if not from an iPhone, will have a USB thing that plugs in. Most people will have that. I don't know if there's going to be people that won't, and that are going to get burned by this, but
yeah,
I don't think that it's going to be as big a problem as the internet has blown it up to be. It's definitely stupid, and I think kind of just a dumb PR move, if anything, because it's stuff like that where it doesn't make a huge difference to probably 95% of iPhone customers, but it's PR heaven for Apple haters. You know, it's like the $1,000 stand. It's like the $400 wheels. No one cares. You're not buying a Pro Display XDR. Who cares about the stand?
Whoa. We both know somebody who did. Luke, we both know somebody who brought it, baby. We both know.
We know someone who bought the stand and not the monitor because he's a moron.
Shot fired on the podcast! Shot fired on the podcast, bro!
But like the entire internet goes crazy for the wheels for the $50,000 PC that they're not gonna buy.
Yep.
And the $6,000 monitor that they're not gonna buy. It's just the PR aspect of it is what makes you bang your head on the table. Like, why not just have the iPhone and then say, I don't need a charger, and choose to select that? Or have an opt-in. Be like, do you want a charging brick? Yes. And then some people aren't going to click it. And then there you go. You end up not shipping a whole bunch of chargers. Like, it's just kind of the optics of it that don't make any sense. Charging extra for stuff instead of saying, like with the Pro Display XDR last year at WWDC, and they were like, and so you could buy $5,000 for the monitor, and then you can add the stand for $1,000.
Right.
It's a matter of phrasing. Say, here's the monitor for $6,000, or you can get it without the stand for $5,000. It's the same thing, but you just flip that narrative, and suddenly it's not $1,000 stand. It's a $6,000 monitor or $5,000 without the stand. Mm-hmm. You just kind of reframe it. I don't know why they don't do that.
Because Apple likes to be difficult. And they like I think Apple likes the headlines too. So I think that's part of it. But I want to go back.
Kind of feed off the hate.
Probably knowing them. I want to go back. I want to go back to the Apple Silicon transition.
Yeah.
Because I read that article that Sonny sent you on Twitter earlier today, and basically, and part of the article they were saying that they were trying to figure out which would be the first Mac to have the ARM silicon in it. And I think they were making an argument that most of the baseline Macs, like the 13-inch MacBook Pro and the base level iMac, those will be the first machines to have the ARM chip because those are the easiest to transition into because you don't have to worry about the upgrades that you get with the higher level MacBook. So because those are the base models and you don't have to really there's not much to transition with the base models. The software like the baseline Mac would be the first ones to have the Apple Silicon on them. So what do you think about that stance there?
I mean, I think that's kind of the obvious solution because, as we all know, on the base model Macs like the MacBook Air, the 13-inch Pro, even some of the 21-inch iMacs, that's, in terms of difficulty, that's the lowest because A12Z is already most of the way to a 13-inch MacBook Pro. Instead of doing 4 performance and 4 efficiency cores, maybe do 6 performance and 4 efficiency, make it a 10-core processor, up the TDP, give it a little fan, or even just a little heatsink. Boom, you've done it. You've got yourself a 13-inch MacBook Pro. And that's also we're still talking there about a 2-year-old chip design. So you take A14 cores that are going to be more powerful than A12 cores. Boom, you've got yourself a deal. Renee also just brought up there's no separate GPU. That's another key thing. A 13-inch MacBook Pro has integrated graphics.
Right.
That's something that Apple, that's achievable. That's something that they can work on. When you look at a 27-inch iMac, basically, as you go up the product lines, you have to think, okay, Apple is not going to release a new product that is slower than their old one, which means if they're going to replace something, it has to be able to outperform whatever the most powerful version of the one it replaces is. So right now, if they wanted to replace the 5K iMac, they would need a processor that outperforms a 9900K and a graphics processor that outperforms a Vega 48. That's a much more formidable challenge than a quad-core MacBook with integrated graphics. So that's the stuff that's going to take a little bit more time. The 21-inch iMac is another one that confuses me a little bit because, if you look at a 24-inch Apple Silicon iMac is what we're supposedly going to be getting. That is a bit of a strange situation in terms of positioning because they could very well have it be a separate product that therefore doesn't have to be compared to an existing one. But personally, I couldn't see it any other way than you could get a 21.5-inch iMac, or you could step it up to the better, newer design, cooler Apple Silicon iMac, which means that they would probably want it to be better performing. And if we translate that, then you can get a 21-inch iMac with a Core i7-8700 and Vega 20 graphics. Not as powerful as the 27, but that's still a pretty decent threshold. So I think realistically, if they do want to do it properly, the 24-inch iMac should be able to outperform that, which means they're probably pretty close.
Gotcha. Shout out to Greg for the super chat. He said, "Hey, my mom says I'm very smart." Also, shout out to Alan Jackson for the super chat. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, so Renee says 27-inch Intel, then 24-inch Apple Silicon, then 30-inch Apple Silicon iMac. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I think that would make sense. I don't know. It's just such a strange. The iMac is just. It seemed so logical before. I was like, oh, new design generation, yay, done. And then the Apple Silicon transition, and we were like, oh, it's going to be a new design with Apple Silicon. And then they were like, no, we're not going to make it that easy for you. What are you, insane? So I honestly don't know. That could make sense, though. 27-inch Intel, then 24-inch Apple Silicon, then 30-inch Apple Silicon. Who knows? I'm hoping that because they'll be able to lower the cost of their CPUs, they'll be able to put mini LED displays in without raising the cost. That's my hope.
Ooh, that'd be interesting. Shannon! Wow, Shannon with the savagery. Shout out for the super chat. She says she has a fundamental disagreement with Greg's mom. Oh my God. Wow. Oh, y'all are wilding tonight. Oh man. Oh my God. Savagery. Woo.
I know, we're just having this conversation and I'm just watching all these people that I know just having an absolute just having a go at Greg here.
Yeah, it just happens from time to time.
I'm all for it. I support them. I agree.
Apparently, he wants to run for president, so he better get used to it.
He'll never win. But if he does, I'm going to be Secretary of State. We've agreed on this. It's a gentleman's agreement. And if he doesn't, then I'm going to make up a scandal and I'm going to sink his presidency.
All
That's
right.
a guarantee.
Ooh, put money on it. Boom.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a few minutes left on the podcast here. So let's talk about iPhone. So we know that the iPhone 12 is coming in a few months here. Actually, damn. September, October, it's almost here. Kind of crazy, but yeah, we're right on the doorstep. So I'm curious, what would you like to see on iPhone 12 that we've never seen on iPhone yet?
Promotion, please.
Ooh, you're gonna be hurting on that one.
I know. I hate it, and it's not really Apple's fault if we're supposed to, if the leaks and rumors are to be believed, they're having some issues. Regrettably, they're having some issues with the promotion. They're having some issues with the OLED on the lower end stuff. But I have always, ever since I think it was 2017, they put promotion in the 10.5 inch iPad Pro, which I have and love. I want promotion on everything. I love high refresh rate. I don't buy a monitor if it's below 100 hertz.
All right. Stop the podcast. You are the second person today who I've talked to that said we love promotion, this, that, and the other. Now, I can understand wanting it on your monitor, okay, because you're gaming, you're doing different things on your monitor. I get it. But is it really that critical to have on your iPhone, though?
Yes. It's so smooth. Have you used the Pixel 4? They've got the 90 hertz.
Yes. And I've used the Galaxy S20. No, that's the iPhone.
That's an iPhone.
Galaxy S20 Ultra with a 120 hertz refresh rate. I've used it. I have one.
It's buttery.
It is, but it doesn't really change the way I use the phone. So I don't know if it's that big of a deal. But I know that's just my thoughts. But I don't understand how y'all love this so much, and it doesn't really change the way you use the phone. I know it feels different.
It's not about the utility. It's about just scrolling through Twitter and seeing that buttery FPS. That is what I want. I want to scroll. I want to swipe through my widgets and just go, yes.
You act like scrolling with 60 hertz like you pull it on a hamstring or something. It's not that bad. Come on,
60 hertz is abysmal.
What?
It's stupid.
You've been using 60 hertz your entire life. What are you talking about?
That is correct. That is accurate. And that's why it's stupid. It's boring. It's everyone at 60 hertz. Ooh. It's boring. Have you ever, answer me this, have you ever on a PC with like a 27-inch 144 hertz monitor, have you ever moved a window around?
I really haven't paid attention to my monitor hertz on PC, so I don't know.
If you ever get yourself a 144 hertz monitor and move a window around.
Again, that's different from something.
It is amazing.
Yes.
You will love it.
On a monitor, yes, but on a cell phone? Come on, dude. Stop it.
No, it's even better on a cell phone.
Oh my lord!
Because when you're not going to necessarily be able to crank out 144 frames in a game, but you can crank out 120 on Twitter. Are you kidding? Yeah, all day long. I want that. I need that.
All right. I'm going to throw this Renee question in here real quick. He wants to know, Luke, 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second?
30.
Okay, that was quick answer. Okay, all right.
I'm not filming a movie. I'm not filming in stop motion. Gotta have 30.
Okay. But yeah, unfortunately, I think Ross Young put out there that there's no path for a 120 hertz iPhone this year, and then Mac Quanbot confirmed it. So don't think we're going to see that this year unless something miracle happens between now and then. But yeah, not looking good this year. So besides that, speaking of Travis, he happens to be out there. But yeah.
Travis was in the chat.
Travis is out there. Yes, he is. But besides the 120 hertz, is there anything else that you would like to see on iPhone 12?
Well, I'm looking forward to a refreshed design. I'm really hoping, I don't know, my biggest pet peeve about the current generation, I don't have an iPhone 12, but obviously, getting rid of the shiny back, that was a good move. The frosted glass on the back of the iPhone 12, I like. The Pro. But the thing that I don't like about this generation is the shiny sides, because I'm a crazy person. I don't use cases. I don't use screen protectors. I have never used a case. I have never applied a screen protector in 8 years, and I've never cracked an iPhone. I'm very careful, And as such, I use my phones as Johnny intended them, which is completely unmarred by a case.
Wow.
And as a result of that, these shiny sides, they get smudged. They get kind of annoying. You got to clean them off. They get smudged. They get gunky. It's not pleasant. I want the titanium rails from an iPhone 4. That's what I want. Not shiny, but not aluminum, because the aluminum wasn't super durable with the 6 and 7 and whatnot. That's what I'm looking forward to. And the flat sides.
So you have a glass back iPhone that you use without a case. Aren't you worried that you might slip out of your hand?
Nope.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not about that life. I need a case on my iPhone. No. I ain't taking no type of chances. No, sir. You are a brave man. You're a very brave man.
Travis just said that I jinxed myself.
He did.
Well, guess what, Travis? You're wrong, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it since 2013, and I still haven't cracked a phone. It's not going to happen.
You are part of a growing army, because I know Marquez doesn't use cases. I know Andrew Edwards doesn't use cases. Taylor Ted doesn't use cases. There's a whole bunch of you out there that don't use cases, and y'all are all crazy as hell. But I applaud your bravery, though. I applaud your bravery.
It's the way Johnny Ive intended it to be.
Yeah, but I don't think you would like a cracked phone either. But hey,
I would not. But I don't have to worry about that because I'm not going to do it.
All right. Hey,
Renee, yes, there we go.
Hey,
I knew Renee would be.
It's an army. It is a literal army out there, y'all.
Of taste.
There's a bunch of y'all that don't use cases. Man, y'all are brave. Woo.
It's not about bravery. It's about courage.
Renee said he didn't bring an iPhone into the iPhone 8, then he broke 3. See, even Sonny says y'all crazy. They're crazy, man. I'm telling you, I know. I don't know.
Never cracked a phone.
Hey, man.
I'm just saying.
You better keep knocking on that wood you got in your office or something.
I have secure pockets.
Oh, here we go. I said, do you have Apple Care, though?
I don't. I've also never bought Apple Care. Yeah, that's true.
Oh, my God. You're walking around without Apple. Oh,
I'm using a $3,300 16-inch MacBook Pro with no Apple Care.
Damn. Well, of course, you got like multiple MacBooks. You don't need Apple Care. You got multiple MacBooks.
Well, I mean, I'm not about to pay Apple to repair. I've never paid Apple for a repair of any sort. I've just never do it. I do have Apple Care on the iMac Pro, but that's because I bought it with Apple Care.
Ah, okay.
So it's got about a year and a half left. About a year and a half left of Apple Care. Because it was like, all right, okay. I'll get the iMac Pro with Apple Care because I'm not about to try to. I'm never opening this thing ever. There's no way that I'm opening that machine. Not in a million years.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't do it either. All right, so I have exhausted my question for Luke. If Luke has a few minutes, I will open up the question from you guys. You got some time?
Yeah, I'm good. We can field some questions.
All right, if you guys got any questions from my man Luke Miani, speak up now or forever hold your peace. Seems like a lot of you all had some questions while we were going through the podcast, so I will give you guys a few minutes to present some questions. Because this dude is like smart as all hell when it comes to laptops. And I'm not. I mean, I know about computers, but I'm not Luke Miani, man. That dude knows everything. Dude, man. Dang. I cannot believe you walk around caseless and you're proud of it.
I'm not ashamed.
Woo. All right, Greg has a question for you. He says, favorite Mac design of all time.
Oh, that's a good one. Does like aesthetically or function wise?
I'm gonna go with aesthetically.
Well, yeah, we don't need to give Greg more airtime to continue another sentence. Favorite Mac design. That's a tough one because obviously when you look back on it, certain things, you look at the bezels on a Retina, they're not the best. I think probably it would have to be the original Retina generation. Just in terms of like in a contemporary sense, because like I think obviously a 16-inch MacBook Pro looks better than that Retina, but when you look at it in terms of, and this is like recent, I'll do like classic Mac design in this, after this. The recent Macs, you look at 2012, that Retina was so far ahead of what anyone else was making in 2012. They still look current. You still see those things in TV shows and movies, and you don't bat an eye. An 8-year-old design. that is a really good design. Apart from that, I think the original iMac and the iBook clamshell would be my favorites in terms of like legacy Macs, just because I mean you've got just the splash of color in a sea of beige that was in 98, 99. Those were the best, and they also saved Apple. Steve Jobs' big return with the iMac.
Right.
So those would definitely be my top three.
Okay. All right. So Sonny Dixon says the iMac G4.
The Sunflower. Yeah, the G4 is really good.
Renee says OG iMac. Okay. And Greg says original iMac or iMac G4. Okay. All right.
Go back. Well, now I have to pick a new one because Greg ruined it.
Good Lord. All right, Renee with the troll question. Should you buy an Intel Mac now or Apple Silicon Mac later? Because literally nobody made a video about that. He's trolling.
I mean, we all stole it from each other. But I'll answer it. Personally, I would say no. Because we know that, the people out here, the people watching this podcast, the people watching our channels are the tech savvy people on top of stuff. If you're buying a new Mac, wait as long as possible. Unless, as I mentioned in my video about that, which had that exact title, if your MacBook has literally, it's on fire in the room right now, and you need a new one for work tomorrow, okay, you can buy an Intel Mac. But if you have an Intel Mac already, because I get so many like tweets and emails or questions on my subreddit from people that are like, so I have a 2015 MacBook Pro, and I just really want a 16-inch MacBook Pro right now, right this very second, and I want one right now. I don't need it, but I just want it really, really bad. Those are the people that you got to talk them down and be like, no. Your computer's fine. A 2015 is still good. You don't need to buy a new one. If you want to buy a new one, that's fine, but wait for an actual new one, not the 16-inch, which came out 8 months ago.
Right.
That's the trick. That's where I got a tweet from some guy who bought a 2019 iMac like yesterday, a 27-inch 2019 iMac, which first of all came out over a year ago, and second of all, it's going to get updated like in a week. Ooh. So I was like, return it.
Take it back. Take it back. Real Barlow wants to know Palpatine or Voldemort.
In terms of favorite or least favorite?
I'm guessing which one you prefer.
Probably Palpatine.
All right. There is your answer. Okay. Let me go back. All right. Let's know. I think we just answered this one, but he says the 2017 iMac Pro a good deal now, and I'm guessing since it's been out for 2 years, Luke is going to say no.
I was actually going to say yes.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't necessarily think that there's a future for the iMac Pro, but they are very solid, okay. And they're not holding their value as well as the Mac Pros have, because the 2013 Mac Pros, I've been saying it for years, do not buy one under any circumstances. I bought one because I'm stupid, but no one else should because they're terrible value for money and they're really old and outdated. But the iMac Pro is great. We'll see what happens with the new iMac. So again, I would say, proceed with caution. If you find a really good deal on one, it's not the end of the world, but see what happens.
Speaking of good deals, I was watching your video earlier today where you did a $500 MacBook challenge with Elite, and you guys brought MacBooks off of eBay, which is just I wouldn't do it. I'm sorry, I don't trust eBay, but you seem to have good luck on eBay.
eBay's great. eBay has a stigma right now. It's had a stigma for a while, but basically, back in the old days, eBay was just a place where you would go to get scammed. But if you're buying on eBay, there's nothing to worry about. If you read the listing, you can eBay bends at the will of whatever their buyers say. I had some guy who forced a return because I didn't disclose a specific dent on the underside of the bottom case of a 2013 MacBook. Mm-hmm. eBay forced a return for that. So the absolute worst thing that could happen to you on eBay is you spend $300 on a Mac, and then a month later you get your $300 back. It's a very safe place to buy computers. You can still get tricked. That's different than getting scammed with false advertising and stuff like that. But it's not. People tend to worry that they're going to order a Mac and they're going to just get a human foot in a box. And they're like, no, I spent $4,000 on a human foot in a box. It's not going to happen.
All right. So besides changing your account name to Luke Miani, what tip would you offer for people who are looking to buy stuff off of eBay?
Just kind of skip through the really flashy headlines. The same way on YouTube, you look for the clicky stuff, right? You click on the bright, colorful thumbnail that has a lot of production value. You click on the title that has like capital letters and is well laid out. But oftentimes, if someone is putting in the effort to make their product look better than it might actually be, those are oftentimes the ones that you want to skip out on. So I always look for the ones that are taken with someone's Samsung Galaxy S4 at night in the dark with the flash on a carpet where they don't know what they're listing and the picture looks garbage and it's out of focus. Half the time, those end up being the good ones. That's kind of the broad strokes advice. Also, specificity is good. If you go on eBay and you type MacBook Pro, the whole first page is just going to be people trying to overcharge you for an old Mac that isn't worth what they want you to pay for it.
Right.
So if you just use the little filters and say, all right, I want, figure out which Mac you want. Late 2013 MacBook Pro, great machine, still supported under Big Sur. You say, all right, I want my processor, 4th generation Core i7. I want my graphics, GT750M. Boom, you've got a whole page of results that you can go through. You can look at sold listings to see what people are paying for the computers you're looking at. Those are the best ways to sort of refine a search down so that you know you're getting a good deal.
Mr. Miani, are you suggesting that we should not work as hard on our YouTube thumbnails?
Well, no, it's sort of a reverse psychology thing. Because on eBay, like the same, if you're a seller, then obviously you want to make your thumbnails stand out and you want to make your title stand out just like you would on YouTube. But when you're watching a video on YouTube, you're not necessarily looking for the bad videos, whereas you are looking for the bad listings in some cases on eBay.
Okay.
I mean, I bought a listing that was a MacBook Pro that was listed as a 12-inch MacBook for $650 and ended up being a 15-inch 2016 fully loaded MacBook Pro. Sometimes the diamonds in the rough are what you got to look for.
Okay. Very excellent advice. Thank you. And on that note, Luke Miani, excellent conversation, sir. Thank you for taking the time to join me tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Before we get out of here, let the people know where they can find you.
Oh, yes. You can find me on Twitter at Luke Miani, or you can find me on YouTube at Luke Miani. YouTube.com/Luke Miani.
You forgot his name.
I'm not about to come up with some fancy scheme. It's just, Google me. You'll find it.
Google this man. You'll find him. No doubt. Shout out to those of y'all that watched the podcast live tonight. We got like 41 of you all in here right now. Thank you for rocking out with me and Luke Miani tonight. I appreciate you guys. You guys are always great showing up and showing out. If you guys super chatted, became a member, or brought me a coffee, thank you. If you want to subscribe to the channel, LFH put the link in the chat. So definitely go check out Luke. As you guys just heard, the dude is very, very intelligent, and he knows his stuff when it comes to laptops. So definitely go check him out for real. Shout out to those of y'all that listen to audio only this week. Thank you for listening to another episode of VypDrive with me and Luke Miani. If you guys want to go check out Mr. Miani, his link will be in the show notes. So definitely go give him a look. He is legit. Also, if you want to support the podcast or donate to the podcast, there will be links in the show notes. Again, it's not required, but anything that you are willing to do is greatly, greatly appreciated. Also, if you happen to be listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a rating or review. Like I said earlier, helps more people discover the podcast, helps us get back into the top 200 of the podcast. So thank you guys for rocking out on another edition of VypDrive. For those of y'all watching live, you know I will be back tomorrow night with Kanupni. I don't know if you didn't know that or not, but yeah, tomorrow night I am scheduled to be joined by Kanupni on the podcast. So definitely come back and hang out tomorrow night if you guys are able to do that. But that'll be the conclusion of this one. But until the next time, people, this your boy Viper, the man about tech. You know where to find me. So come back for more.